Major League Baseball, the one sports organization league that can't really seem to get anything together. Doug, is it worth coming back for a 60, 65 game season in 2020 is the question before you to debate here.
Does anyone really think that, like, oh, man, I love that 162 game baseball season. You can't give me a whole 162. What's the point? I'm not sure baseball should be a 60 game season every year. Yeah. So if I were baseball, if I had steams on my face and I were baseball, I would not want to risk having a season wiped out and people not missing me, because people seem fired up about the idea of like the NBA coming back for this playoff run, and people are very curious about whether we're going to have football in the fall and what it might look like. I'll tell you what, and this is not a unique opinion. What the NHL did to itself when it wiped out a season, I know this is a different circumstance, but it just, I think it relegated itself to a different tier on the sports listings of Americans. And I think baseball is at risk of people realizing that, yeah, I can live without baseball. It's fine. It's there in the background. But I think baseball, as we all, I think, probably agree, is kicking itself in the butt right now. And I'm not sure why. And whether you want to blame the owners mostly, which is probably fair, but also blame the players as well. For the interest that people have in baseball, I think those players are overpaid. I think it could use a restructuring of how everything works. But I think for its own sake, if it thinks that it can just, because it's not dealing with coronavirus anymore, it's fighting over how to come back about it. I think a lot of people will just not be mad at baseball. There's one thing, you want people to be mad at baseball. The risk is apathy. The risk is like, did baseball come back? I didn't notice. And I think that's what baseball is risking if it continues to fight over this and end up with zero. So to me, almost any number is better than zero. 20, 30, 40 to me is a better situation for the game and for fans than zero.
It is a better situation for the fans, but you alluded to it. Baseball's broke. The system is broke. It's been broke for a while. Rob Manfred is worried about silly things like pitch counts and 3-inning minimums and ignored what was evident to most fans. This system, the way the financial system works without a salary cap, where teams like the Yankees, Dodgers, Red Sox, and Cubs can outspend their mistakes, and everybody else is kind of relegated to, we got this player, but he's a free agent, and one of these big market teams is going to drop down a lot of money and pay him, and then he's going to go, and it's broke. If it means going away for a year, 6 months, 8 months, whatever it is, so that they can come back with a system that works financially, they need to do that, because this is not going to be a short-term thing. They have a collective bargaining agreement that expires. That's the silly part of this. They're arguing over things, and they have a collective bargaining agreement that's in place, and they're worried about the negotiations for that start after next season. So these guys have missed an opportunity. They could have been playing in like 2 weeks, but they can't agree on the revenue structure of it. And it's, this agreement said this, and the commissioner can do this, but we're going to file a grievance. I mean, these guys need to get together, let it go away, and come back, and let's have it so that it is a more level playing field. And I understand the differences because it's driven by local TV dollars, which there's a huge disparity of. Hundreds of millions of dollars difference in revenue. And I find it interesting that there's reportedly 8 teams that don't want a season. My guess is those are the bottom 8 teams in terms of local television revenue, because there's just no way they can compete. And that number would be indicative of having a difficult time passing anything. So I'm not opposed to him not playing this year if they can come back and have a structure that is significantly more fair across the board. And I think it's absolutely ridiculous that some of these owners went out and signed people to $300-400 million contracts. That's one guy of 25 on a major league roster. I mean, if it's a position player, it's 1 of 8. You can pitch around him. You can roll the ball in every time he comes up to the plate, and he can't hurt you. It's ludicrous.
I mean, it is broken. It's just I don't know if do you have to always drive off the cliff to fix your car? Can't you just like get an oil change in half an hour? Why do you have to total your car to fix it? I get how negotiations work. I mean, before I agreed to do this debate format, I mean, I demanded several $100 million to take part in this. It's a very long, drawn out negotiation. But we didn't end the show and come back in a year and say, now we're going to do a debate format. We figured it out. So I just, they're all so stupid. They aren't who they think they are. None of them are. Their role in American society, I think, is not what it thinks it is. And if it does, if they agree with you, we're gonna break it, fix it, then man, I don't know. You better come back with 7-inning games, 2.5 hours or less, a salary cap, fireworks in the outfield. I don't know. You better come back with a game that's going to be more interesting and relevant, and you better come back with a way to promote your players, and you better come back with a way to have fun and it come into the modern age in a lot of ways. And I know there are traditional baseball fans listening to this, but none of us can pretend that baseball has kept up with the time. And just the relevance of the NBA and the NFL, I think, to the average American sports fan is so much greater. They have to find a way to appeal to younger viewers. They have to find a way, I think, to encourage and fund youth programs in this country across a wide range, a diversity of communities. So I don't know. Does anybody have any faith in them? You're so sick of it. And you just shake your head with all the things going on in the world, what they are fighting over. I still think, why do they have to be attacked? Can you just figure out the 50 or 60 game season and then when it's over, say, man, we really they're coming up on it. Figure that out later. Why do you have to, at this time in American history, why do you have to use this time during a great upheaval, societal change for the better, a pandemic like we haven't seen in 100 years, and now we're also going to fight over the monetary structuring of a sport in decline? Play and then get to that stuff. I don't know. That's probably naive, but I'm sick. Along with everybody else.
You used the fixing the car analogy. They're driving around trying to find an Indy pit crew to fix their 75 Gremlin because it's going back and forth and they're getting nowhere. It makes no sense. I am a huge baseball fan. I will watch teams that are not Indians, play games. It's broke, and the thing is, what the players and what the owners have shown is they're incredibly out of touch with, the average viewer, their average fan, because there is, 18% unemployment, and they're arguing because they're not getting, 100% of their prorated salaries, or they're not making, the players want, $600 million more. It's ludicrous. You're out of touch with what the people who pay to watch you are going through. I mean, you couldn't have picked a worse time to come out and argue about that kind of money.
No, I agree. And I think everybody on the outside can see that. And clearly the people on the inside can't. So, but from a standpoint of, again, I just think I would not put a limit on a number of games. To me, there's no limit of like, well, if we can't play at least X, then it's not worth it. Because I just think if it's safe, and that's what I've said through this whole discussion, if it's safe, and as we see, college football programs return and players testing positive for COVID-19 and all the discussions about how you might play in a bubble or how you can, I don't think there's any assurance that it is safe. So that's something you've got to work on. And you can't let the distraction of a monetary fight take you away from, do you have the things in place that if and when you do play, it's going to be as safe as it possibly can be at a time when we see a lot of COVID spikes in states around the country. But if you can figure out, I'd play 2 months if I could. Let's play 40 games, maybe only play in your division or something. we'll expand playoffs and let's have some baseball. Let's have a sport. Let's have something going on. And if they don't see that, this was an opportunity for them. That's the thing. It wasn't just an opportunity to keep status quo. It was an opportunity to seize the moment, because if we hadn't gone back to football, we didn't have the NBA, and baseball is outside. It's more naturally distanced. There's a lot of things that seemingly would make it easier to play baseball than some other sports. Maybe that's naive too, but it felt like an opportunity for baseball to maybe try to pull more fans back in, and instead they're eliminating the casual fan and kicking their loyal fans in the butt, and they've just completely blown it.
Yeah, and the flip side of it is spring training is 33 games. So if they play 40 games, it's like a extended spring training, and then you're going to have the same issues that you can't solve right now come back up when the collective bargaining agreement is up in 2021. So they need to get it in order pretty quickly, because they could come back, play 60 games, and then if they go back and there's a lockout or there's a strike, they're still going to lose everybody. I mean, they need a long-term solution, and I think your analogy at the beginning to the NHL may be more accurate than you think. I think they're in danger of losing a whole lot of standing in the sports hierarchy.
I'm an old white guy, and I don't care about baseball nearly as much as I used to care about it. And if it had been the only thing going, if they had found a way to get this rolling sooner,
Yep.
I would have it. And as it stands right now, there's not a hole in my life because there's not baseball. And it's not about me, but it's just, again, I'm sure there are younger people. I am the demographic. You and I are the demographic, right? I mean, if losing us, man,
Yep.
I'm not sure who you're going to.
Yeah, and I agree. They missed a huge opportunity, and the one thing they need to do, they need to get it right, and they need to get it right long term, and they need to do it in a hurry, because tick tock, time's running out on Major League Baseball.